What is up, everybody, and welcome back to the final episode of this Leclerc series. If you haven't been following along, I guess you can watch this last episode now, or you can go ahead, watch all of the series playlist. It'll be in the top right corner right as we speak, but we're into this final episode where it's 2 points between us and Max Verstappen. We do have that 2-point advantage, and we're going to show a couple clips of what has happened over the series. You can see we make contact with Verstappen made contact with us there in Monza. A nice little move around the outside in Mexico, and this move happened just in the last race in Brazil. You can see we're second to Verstappen on the final lap of the Grand Prix, and this overtake helps us lead the championship going into Abu Dhabi. It gave us a 2-point lead, otherwise Verstappen would be going into Abu Dhabi with the championship lead. But what an overtake that was, down the inside. See you later. And we have a look at the performance index chart, and it's pretty much relatively the same between us, Red Bull, Mercedes, McLaren is up there as well. So there's multiple teams that can win this Grand Prix. So it's not just me and Verstappen. So it could get a bit feisty, as it's not the best of starts coming out of the pits, is it? When you can't even turn the car enough to get it out of the pits, and we clipped the wall a little bit. I don't think there was any damage onto the front wing, so we were just good. But not the start we had in mind in Abu Dhabi. I mean, it's a track that I haven't really raced around much. I haven't raced around much on this game. I don't really like the track, as we almost put it in the wall right there. Ran a little bit wide, but somehow got away with it with track limits. But yeah, haven't really raced around it much, so I did quite a bit of practice, trying to get used to the track. And honestly, these first qualifying runs were helping me get used to it a little bit more as well. As you can see, we were fastest in Q1, so I'm clearly getting used to it pretty well. But I think that was because we had to go out on a new set right at the end of the session just to make sure we got through in Q1, because otherwise we were hovering down to P10, P11, and could have potentially dropped to the drop zone. But Q2 was pretty straightforward as well. But here we are on Q3, our first lap, and the banker lap is so important. Just put us in the top 5, allow us to push a little bit more. As we come out of the exit here, we put it in the wall, and thankfully, so lucky that we only break the front wing. I thought the tyres were coming off. If the tyres come off there, it's the end of the session. We're starting P10 in Abu Dhabi, but it was just the front wing. We were able to get on back, and you can see Verstappen down there in P9 as well. So he made a mistake on his first flying lap. So both the championship protagonists have to get a lap in and have to do a good lap if they want to start on the front row. I want to try and start on pole position, but the main goal is make sure I start in the top 5. I can't make a mistake. If I make a mistake, I'm starting P10, and that's a lot of positions to make up, especially if Verstappen finds the time on his final lap. So it's a decent first sector, and with the setup, you've got to make sure that you have enough straight line speed because of these 2 long straights. So the setup around here is a little bit difficult, as Verstappen does a 22.6. A 22.6. I get that the track's ramping up. We did like a 23.1 or whatever in Q2, and the track's ramping up. But a 22.6 is absolutely outrageous. So we're going to have to find some time. As you can see, we're up 3 tenths on Sergio Perez. So we're putting in a good lap. We're definitely in the top 5, as we just about keep it within the track. It's probably a top 3 lap, this one. We got to make sure that we finish it. Can't take too many risks. Just get to the line, make sure we start in the top 3, and we'll go from there, and we'll get Verstappen during the race. As round in the last couple corners we go, it's going to be up to the line. It's going to be tight. It could actually be pole position in Abu Dhabi. It's a 22.7 by the looks of it, and it's going to be P2. So it's going to be a front row start against Max Verstappen for the championship. Look at that. It's a great lap from us. With all the pressure on us, we've put in a worldie of a lap to go P2. Verstappen will be starting on pole, and we'll see you on race day, ready to try and take home the 2023 World Championship.
So here we are, ready to go racing for one final time this year. Another season of victories, controversies, and rivalries lies in our wake. And just one challenge remains, here in the United Arab Emirates, on a circuit that made its spectacular debut back in 2009. Welcome to the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix. We have 16 corners here at Yas Marina Circuit, 7 to the right and 9 to the left. It's a total lap distance of 3.28 miles, 2 long straights and overtaking opportunities throughout the lap. And we expect average speeds of around 123 miles per hour. Before we begin, let's take a quick look at the grid lineup for today's race. Mr. Monaco lines up on pole position, just ahead of George Russell, who starts this event from P2. As we continue through the rest of the grid today, we have Ocon, Hamilton, Pierre Gasly and Magnussen, Mick Schumacher, Sainz, Verstappen and Valtteri Bottas. Perez, they'll be starting further back after an earlier grid penalty. Vettel, Daniel Ricciardo, they've taken a grid penalty, and Latifi. Joe, Albon, Lance Stroll, they'll be starting further back after an earlier grid penalty, and Fernando Alonso. Norris, and Yuki Tsunoda. It's almost time for those 5 red lights to go out then. Let's see who can prevail today. Anthony Davidson joins me once again in the commentary box, and it's fantastic to have you with us here, but I'm curious, as a man with experience out on the track, how do you stop those pre-race nerves from becoming overwhelming when you're lining up on the grid?
Well, I imagine they'll be starting to feel the adrenaline as they anticipate the rundown into turn 1, a bit like preparing to go into battle. The unknown situation will bring nerves, but that's a good thing. It will keep them focused on the moment and on their surroundings as we build towards the start of the Grand Prix.
There's still a chance we can win this championship, so go out there and bring back the title.
It's championship day in Abu Dhabi, and on the Saturday, it was advantage Max Verstappen, but on the Sunday, it's advantage Charles Leclerc because Max Verstappen's had to take a grid penalty. He started all the way down in P9 for the finale, for the final race of the season. He's bottled it, or his team's bottled it. He's had to take a penalty. No idea about it. I mean, why would they wait until the final race? They could have done it in Mexico. They could have done it somewhere else, but they've waited until Abu Dhabi. It was going to be a front row start for both Max Verstappen and myself, but he's got a penalty, so he's all the way down in P9. He's going to have to weave his way through the field if he wants to come back. As you can see him there, behind 8 other cars. We're underway in Abu Dhabi, and George Russell, who started on the front row with me, gets a very, very good start and leads us away after turn 1. Max Verstappen doesn't seem to be making up too many places. Our teammate is battling for P4 with the Alpine of Esteban Ocon, but we've got Lewis Hamilton behind us to worry about and George Russell in front. We're stuck in a Mercedes sandwich, but coming in, we've outbroke ourselves. There goes Lewis Hamilton up into P2. We're dropping down like a stone already, down into P3. And we know how aggressive the AI can be. We are on standard damage, not on simulation. But on standard damage, we still don't want to get any damage to our car, as there goes Ocon. We're going to have to start getting our elbows out, otherwise half the grid is going to pass us. And before we know it, Verstappen is going to be right on our tail. We're right behind Ocon now, trying to get that place back, get back into the top 3 and work our way up from there, because we know the Mercedes have decent pace, but the Alpine of Esteban Ocon shouldn't be up there, as Carlos Sainz is looking to follow us through. But yeah, Verstappen, not the start that he had in mind. And this is actually Sergio Perez sending one down the inside of Verstappen and an Alfa Romeo. I mean, the AI in this game, they're just crazy, aren't they? That overtake just looked really weird, and they make some outrageous moves that I can never understand. But look at that bottom left corner, the mini-map, the gap. There's a massive gap between Sergio Perez and Esteban Ocon already, as Perez just about gets past Pierre Gasly. But Verstappen's still stuck in this train. The longer he's stuck in this train, the more and more he's going to need a safety car to catch us. I'll tell you what, he is going to need a safety car. That's the only way he is going to catch us in this Grand Prix, because look how far behind he is, unless we make a mistake. He's got about 15 seconds to gain. We're hanging on with the Mercedes up front. He has got a job and a half to do if he wants to take home this World Drivers' Championship. And I tell you what, that penalty has ruined an absolute masterclass between us and Verstappen, but that's fine by us. You know, we want a nice, easy, safe victory rather than a scrap with Verstappen where we could potentially lose out, because we know that Red Bull is very, very good. And I tell you what, Pierre Gasly is not making this easy at all for Max Verstappen. He's losing more and more time against the sister Red Bull as Gasly is still sticking it around. Max Verstappen, I tell you what, he's not got any friends left in the paddock. Perez isn't letting him past. Gasly made it very, very difficult. And on lap 7, he's just about got up in a P8. So he's made up 1 position in 8 laps and lost about, what, 15 seconds, 20 seconds to us? So he's about 20 seconds behind where he needs to be if he wants to be crowned the 2023 world champion, as we're almost pushing Lewis Hamilton, because we see Lewis Hamilton is dropping away from his teammate. Now, if we know that we've beaten Verstappen, we do want to win this race. It'll be nice to end this season with a race win, and getting past Hamilton was the first step towards that. The Mercedes are quick. They have been upgrading their car. I think the top 4 is Mercedes, Red Bull, McLaren, and us. So Mercedes should be right around us, which they are. And I'll tell you what, George Russell and Lewis Hamilton, they're not going to be any pushover by no imagination, as Verstappen is now looking at Sergio Perez, and Perez, absolutely no team orders this year. He gave team orders in 2021, but in 2022, he's not happy with Verstappen. He's making it as difficult as possible, and Verstappen eventually gets past, but Perez still fighting it all the way. And eventually Verstappen does get on through. 10 laps in, he's so far behind. He needs a safety car. He needs a retirement. He needs something to go his favor. It happened in 2021. It could happen again in 2022. I'll tell you what, though. Give a shout out to Carlos Sainz, our teammate. He's not usually up there with us, but he's up in P4. As Verstappen, he's in on lap 10. That is very, very early. I mean, you can go to the hards on the end from here, so maybe he's going for a different type of strategy with, I'll tell you what, that's a very different type of strategy. He's on to the mediums. What is he doing? What is Red Bull doing? They're just giving us the championship. Unless maybe a safety car. No, if a safety car comes out now, he's already down into P16. He's absolutely bottled it. Speaking of bottling it, we've ran wide. We've locked up the tyres. Thank God it's not a street track, as we lose a second or two to George Russell, and all of a sudden, Hamilton and our teammate are right on us. And, you know, that's a mistake. Make that once in a while, that's fine. We're pushing a little bit to close it on Russell. As long as it's not a spin, and as long as we don't put it in the wall, then we can afford to make those mistakes. You know, a lock up every now and then, as we do actually come into the pits the following lap. Our tyres did heat up a little bit. They were getting a bit worn. So I'm going for a bit of an undercut on George Russell, and making sure we stay ahead of Hamilton and Sainz as well. We want to win the race. We want to win the race. We want to end the season on a high. Obviously, thinking about the championship, we're not going to make no silly moves on the Mercedes. But to beat them, and maybe even a 1-2's on the cards with Carlos Sainz up there. And good thing coming out the pits there, we don't put it in the wall like we did in qualifying. So we live and we learn, as Lewis Hamilton is out of the session. One of the Mercedes is out of the session. Is it a safety car? Is it a VSC? Is anything going to come out? Because if it does, that will help Russell, that would help Sainz, and that would hurt us, because we've just come out of the pits. And Verstappen, he needs a safety car, but I'll tell you what, it probably won't do him much good coming out right now, and it doesn't. So his strategy bamboozles me. Why has he gone for the 2-stop? I think he's the only car in this race, maybe one other has done it, to go for the 2-stop strategy. It makes absolutely no sense at all. But he thinks it's the way to go. I don't know what Red Bull are looking at, to be honest. We are Ferrari. We're supposed to be the team that makes the awful strategy calls. We're supposed to be the team that makes the strategy blunders. Medium. What? Is he going to go into the softs? The softs ain't going to last long. We saw them in qualifying. They might last 5 to 6 laps, and then they're going to be dead. So if he goes, what? He went onto the mediums at lap 10. It's now lap 20. If he comes into the pits now, I mean, he either goes onto the softs or the hards. He can't go on to another set of mediums. I don't know if the softs will last him 9 laps, to be honest. If he He might have to go on the hards. His hards, why wouldn't he just do the one stop? In he comes now. So Verstappen in for his second stop. He really needed a safety car right now to help him. But it's a really, really strange strategy from Red Bull. And it is the hard tyre. It's the white stripe tyre. I don't understand. What are they doing? What are they doing down at Red Bull? So he comes out onto the hard tyre. 9 laps to use them. They're going to be perfectly fine. But I don't get it. Why not just go into one stop? The hards, they could go 20 laps. Why are you only putting them on for 9? It makes absolutely no sense. In the biggest race of the season, in the race where he could be crowned world champion, Red Bull have taken a penalty and quite possibly given him the worst strategy I have ever seen. It was shocking. Medium hards. He's on the mediums for 10 laps. He's on another set of mediums for 10 laps. And he's on the hards for 9 laps. What? What are you doing, Red Bull? What are you doing? It makes absolutely no sense. But anyway, let's focus on our race. We're battling for P1. We see that Max Verstappen is about 30, 40 seconds behind us. We don't have to worry about him. We can fight for the race win. As down the inside we go on George Russell. Russell breaks a little bit later. We've still got 2.5 laps to go. And I tell you what, our teammate, Carlos Sainz, he's looking to battle. He wants to fight with us. And he wants to get a race win. And we know what it's like when Carlos Sainz races us. He doesn't care about us at all. He'll put us in the wall if he has to. He'll make contact with us. He'll push us. He does not care at all. He doesn't care there's a championship on the line. He would rather get P1 and have us crash out than see us win the championship. So he is going to be a problem as well as we fight for this race win on the final race of the series. We're going to take home the championship as long as nothing crazy happens, as long as our teammate doesn't shove us into the wall. But we've still got to be a little bit careful. We can't take too much of a risk. And that's why we've dropped down into P3. Russell is going to lead us onto the final lap. Sainz in P2, and we are rounding off the podium in P3 as it stands. But you know, there is 2 big DRS straights in Abu Dhabi. We've got 2 more to go, and we can use all that DRS. We can now use all the ERS, and we can try and get the job done in the Mercedes and George Russell. It's almost 3 wide. Sainz sends it down the inside. If we can get a good exit here, which we do, look at this. It's almost 3 wide. A good exit, and we can have a go at Mr. George Russell and Carlos Sainz. George Russell on the inside, but we go down the inside. See you later with the DRS. Sainz around the outside, can't stick it. We're going to win in Abu Dhabi. Carlos Sainz is going to make it a Ferrari 1-2. I didn't think I'd say it this season. Sainz is still looking for the race win. He's almost pushing us around, trying to find an opening. But Sainz, he hasn't looked that great at all in this series. But he's going to come home with us to take P1 and P2 as Sainz down the inside at the final corner. We make a bit of a mistake, but we are world champion in Abu Dhabi.
Oh, it's unbelievable. It is unbelievable. We've done it. We've done it. There were times this season where I didn't think that would happen, but mate, you have pulled it out the bag and you are the world champion.
Well, it's certainly been an incredible year for Formula One, and our drivers have all pushed themselves this season, making it one of the most compelling years of racing in history. There can only be one champion, however, and here they are now, our new Formula One World Drivers' Champion. Victory today then, but bittersweet emotions, I'm sure, as the championship slips through their fingers. Even so, what a fantastic final race of the season this was. Anthony, tell me, what was it that helped them achieve this success?
Well, I honestly feel it was down to the driver and car today. I mean, we can talk driver skill all day, but if you don't have a solid team to back that, you're never going to get anywhere. When you hit that sweet spot of having both an excellent driver and an incredible car, that's when you see results like those we witnessed today.
And here we are, a team that is no stranger to the podium, taking their place on top once again. A sublime race today, and a stunning win for Ferrari.
Charles Leclerc can finally call himself a champion of the world, this time in 2022. Max Verstappen having an absolute stinker, finishing down in P7, was no threat whatsoever. We didn't even see him on the track at all in that race, and that allows us to win the championship by 20 points. We don't really care about the constructors. Red Bull, they had already won it with like 2 or 3 races to go. But Carlos Sainz actually decided to show up in Abu Dhabi. But Charles Leclerc is champion of the world. Thank you, everybody, for watching. Thank you for watching this series. We will be back in F1 23 with hopefully another series like this. Maybe a My Team. Let me know in the comments what you would like to see. Obviously, the Sidemen races will still be there as well, so don't worry about that. But yeah, we'll see you guys next time. Peace.